Hi, my name is Mark Crawley and welcome to Diversita Connect. Today we're going to talk about Neurodiversity Celebration Week. So Neurodiversity Celebration Week is an annual event that's now, I think it must be in its 8th year. We're just going to go through a few stats in a second. But I suppose the question we're going to ask today is, does it really matter in 2026? There are a lot of different events. There's Autism Awareness Month, ADHD Awareness Month, Dyslexia Awareness Week. There's events for or awareness weeks and days for dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Tourette's. There's a variety of different events. But in terms of bringing all of neurodiversity together, this is one of the main events of the year. So I'm just going to go on to a little bit of a summary about what is Neurodiversity Celebration Week. So for those you don't know, it's the week commencing the 16th of March this year in 2026. The first one, I was right, it was in 2018. So this is the 8th year. It was started initially by Sienna Castellon, who was a student who brought it into the sort of the ether, if you like, and started launching a few events online, and then it grew brilliantly. She did so well, and then it was acquired, I think, a few years ago by Lexic. So Lexic is a training provider, not too dissimilar to Diversita, but a lot bigger. And they now sort of almost own the IP around it. To be fair to Lexic, they're quite low key in a lot of the marketing around Neurodiversity Celebration Week. But when you see an event that's being organized via for Neurodiversity Celebration Week or on the official website or anything like that, it is all owned by Lexic. And when you do go on some of the arranged events that they do, and they tend to put on, I think last year was around 50 or 60. It's a lot lighter this year. I'd suggest that they do sometimes try to slip in a few adverts here and there, both at the start and the finish. And you know what? If they're organising it, they're paying for it, then of course they're going to do that. In terms of organising events for Neurodiversity Celebration Week, certainly on the official page, for the last few years, they have been organising them all themselves. This year, it's a bit more user-driven, as in you can almost apply for a slot and you own that slot, and then you deliver the piece of work or you deliver the presentation yourself. I will say that certainly from this year, it doesn't seem to be the amount of content there was previously, but still, if you go on the website, you can still see a few quite interesting webinars. What I would say is that obviously Neurodiversity Celebration Week is not aligned to any one neurotype, right? So it's very much a collective and very much in what it in the name, right? It's celebrating neuroinclusion, celebrating neurodiversity, celebrating different ways of thinking. It used to be called Neurodiversity Awareness Week and has moved into celebration, I think, 2 to maybe 3 years ago. And look, from a Diversita perspective, we mention this to clients that this is Neurodiversity Celebration Week coming up. It's a good opportunity to try and raise awareness or move to action, or really have a look at the type of things that you can do better to be even more neuro-inclusive. So that's the week really in a bit of a summary, and it'd be interesting in the chat or anything like that to see if you are doing anything as if you're a member of the neurodivergent community or an advocate or an ally, or if you're an employer, to see what you're doing for it, and if indeed you even knew that it was Neurodiversity Celebration Week coming up. So I think, look, in terms of my thoughts on it, right, I'm going to use this platform to have a little bit of a ramble today, if that's okay. So when it started, when I first saw this come through, it was very aligned to Sienna Castellon, who started this off. And then for whatever reason, and I don't know all of the details behind it, Lexic then took over the organisation of Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and now, as I mentioned, own the events and the promotion and all of these other things. What I would say is, prior to the Lexic involvement, it seemed to have, and I've got no real way of quantifying this, right? So forgive me for maybe using a bit of artistic license, but it seemed to have more heart then, right? It seemed to be a lot more community driven. It was more of an overarching celebration, and then everyone could celebrate it in their own way. And for me, it was only really the first year of Diversita that I really saw this. So it was great. It was really good. It wasn't just around training providers doing training days and awareness pieces and doing consultancy work, etc. There was a lot of posts around it. There was a lot of prominent voices within the neurodiversity community coming out and talking about this being such a big step. It really was, because it was such a good opportunity to talk about neurodiversity on a particular week and really celebrate it through. I think at a similar time, there was some work going on with the UN where they were starting to look at neuroinclusion, and Sienna was also involved in that. So it was a great opportunity to bring neurodiversity to a wider audience. So some really good stuff going on, right, I thought. And then when it moved to Lexic, it became, to be fair, very well organized, but it was brought in almost into a central, I won't say we own this, but this is almost our thing, right? So there was a website for it, a bit like neurodiversity in business, right? It was more about, this is our own thing. These are the events that are part of Neurodiversity Celebration Week. And I contributed to one of the events so last year. And it's very much around, you promote it with their branding, you promote it in their way, you promote it across channels. And let's be honest, all lines go back to Lexic, right? Which is the organization looking after this. So it's become a little bit, I wouldn't say commercialized, but it's become a little bit sanitized or probably siloed is probably the better phrase, right? It's been brought back into one organization's perspective about what Neurodiversity Celebration Week is. And for me, that feels like it's been lost, right? That feels like a real missed opportunity for the community on what we're trying to do. And I'm not just saying that because Diversita are essentially a competitor of Lexic, right? I'm saying that because when I saw this, it was just so inspiring to see so many people talking about this who are members of the ND community, who thought we finally have this week to be able to talk about neuroinclusion, talk about the way we think differently, talk about some of the challenges, talk about some of the topics that are going on. And this year in particular, when you look at some of the rhetoric in the US, for me, it just feels even more important, more, I'd say, just more, I suppose, just in strategically key that people have this opportunity to be able to talk about these things and be open around neuroinclusion. So I don't know. It just feels, and I'm probably going a little bit off kilter here, right? But it does feel, as I say, that this has become almost one organization's perspective on how neurodiversity should be celebrated across what was going to be a key week. Because of this, I've seen very, very little to talk about what Neurodiversity Celebration Week is this year. Even from Lexic, right? Even from the owners of the focus here, they seem to have scaled back the events they're doing, which is, of course, a shame, because it's a bit like the kid who has all the toys, grabs them all, but only wants to play with a couple, but won't let anyone else play with them, right? So you could say is that probably a little bit mean, but that's how I see it. And because of this, I'm starting to see that less organizations are taking an interest in it, right? And less training providers are promoting it. We've got a few things going on next week, and it's great to see, and those organizations using this week as an opportunity to promote neuroinclusion and to raise awareness and to drive action and do all of these other great things, right? So it's really, really good to see. But I do still feel that it's been lost a little bit. Yeah. I think the biggest change is that Sienna Castellon, who started it, is not really involved in it anymore, and I'm not really sure as to the full picture why, but it seems that she certainly doesn't maybe agree with the way the message is being portrayed now, which is obviously very important, right? Because this is the person who started it all for a particular reason, and an incredibly valid reason. So it'd be interesting to see how Neurodiversity Celebration Week now evolves, right, into next year, because I'm starting to see more of a focus, certainly at the tail end of last year and even now this year, on other awareness weeks or other inclusive weeks, things like Wellbeing Week, and as I mentioned, October is probably a more prominent time in the neuro inclusion calendar going forward to celebrating neurotypes and celebrating neurodiversity. So yeah, interesting to see, but I'd love other people's perspectives on this. And obviously I'm quite close to this. I see this every day, but I do think that it is fast becoming, in my opinion, a bit of a missed opportunity for the neurodiversity community to have a fantastic week where they could really celebrate inclusion. And this week just feels, yeah, it just feels like it's being done a little bit half-heartedly by the group that look after this from an IP perspective. And because of that, I think it's having a knock-on effect into the appetite for celebrating the week in total. So I hope I've explained that okay. But yeah, as I say, it feels like a really missed opportunity for me. So yeah, slightly different video this week, or webinar this week. But I'm really keen when we have any discussions with our community, including our live catch-up on the Wednesday after this webinar goes out, just to explore any other ideas around trying to raise awareness, etc., and trying to make sure that neurodiversity stays front and center in terms of vernacular, company strategy, company rhetorics, and of course the ND community is thought of and obviously prioritized in all of this decision making. So yeah, just thought we'd talk about that a little bit more. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, we'd love your thoughts below. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously we'd love your thoughts in the comments. And of course, if you're watching this on Diversita Connect, we'd love any sort of ideas around this. And of course, in our live discussion about this webinar, we'd love to hear your ideas. So those the final things really, of course, is that we'll add this webinar to the webinar collection where you can obviously comment and ask questions. Of course, this will also go on YouTube and it will go on our podcast channel. So again, love your thoughts around that. As mentioned before, as always, all of our webinars go out on 1 p.m. or around 1 p.m. on a Monday. And then the following Wednesday at 6 p.m. we have our live webinar discussion. So if you've got any thoughts or anything you want to let me know, or just any ideas really around how awareness can be celebrated amongst our community, just DM me, just obviously make any comments on any of the channels that we have. But I'm really interested in your thoughts on Neurodiversity Celebration Week. And like I said before, did you even know it was happening, right? Because as I say, it's pretty low key this year. So thank you so much for watching or listening on this one. I know it's been a slightly different format today, but I was keen with what is still a significant week to make sure that we had some good content going out and some thoughts around this. I believe they are maybe a little bit cautionary, right? So, but look forward to any ideas, thoughts and discussions around this. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. And scan the QR code to join the Diversita Connect community.